Viewers, before we dive in, drop your location and local time in the comments. It's always wild seeing where people tune in from. Sometimes you get midnight coffee drinkers in Ohio chatting with sunrise joggers in Sydney. Now picture Maple Oaks, a neat Texas neighborhood where lawns look cloned from the same glossy catalog. For years, Michael Hansen is the guy people trust. He fixes the clubhouse Wi-Fi after storms, rescues frozen printers before board meetings, and somehow makes neighbors feel grateful instead of indebted. He's not flashy, just steady, helpful, the one you wave to because you know he'd lend a ladder without lecturing you about ladder safety. But gratitude, when filtered through HOA politics, has a way of mutating into control. Karen Fletcher, the HOA president, spots his reliability and starts repackaging it as obligation. Suddenly Michael could. You becomes Michael, you must. If the projector is crooked before wine night, if she needs a ride to City Hall, if the audio cuts out during book club, she treats him like an on-call technician. He humors her at first. Who doesn't? But then he notices the pattern. Her emergencies always arrive when she benefits, and her smile stiffens whenever he dares say no. Historians still argue whether neighborhood power corrupts faster than national power, but in Karen's case, the jury is unanimous. The first formal letter hits like a sour joke, his trash bin allegedly out 15 minutes early. Then another, his garage curtain too sheer for community aesthetics. He files them one by one, amused at first, but quickly sensing the paper cuts add up to a wound. By the time an anonymous complaint accuses him of blasting midnight music, he knows it isn't random. Karen is manufacturing offenses to keep him under her thumb. So Michael flips a switch. The cybersecurity engineer in him wakes up. He installs new cameras with clocks synced to atomic servers, each file hashed and mirrored across the cloud. He scans every letter logs, every call, and saves every email in a folder. He jokes about calling Karen's greatest hits. His neighbors sip wine on porches Saturday mornings, blissfully unaware. But in Michael's office, fans hum, drives spin, and quiet surveillance begins knitting a net. The irony, Karen thinks she's tightening her leash on him, but he's the one weaving a rope she'll eventually trip over. Saturday morning in Maple Oaks usually smells like coffee and lawn clippings. Michael steps outside, mug in hand, ready for a lazy refill from the garage fridge, and freezes. His sedan, the one he babies more than some folks treat their houseplants, has a crater in the rear bumper. Silver paint streaks her SUV's crumpled fender. And there's Karen still in the driver's seat, looking more annoyed than apologetic. She rolls down her window and accuses him of backing into her. The comedy writes itself. His car hasn't moved in 12 hours, but she's dialing the police like she's starring in a daytime drama. Seconds later, Linda Parker, her perpetual coffee buddy, appears, volunteering as eyewitness. Michael almost laughs. It's the kind of scam you read about in those insurance fraud Hall of Shame blogs. The cops arrive. Karen waves her arms. Linda nods like a bobblehead, and Michael calmly mentions that his cameras run 24/7. One officer squats near the bumper, noting the dead-center dent fits a parked car hit. Karen scrambles, suggesting maybe he was at an angle. Nice try. Still, the officers punt, let insurance sort it. Karen smirks, thinking she's planted her story. But Michael! He retreats inside, exports his footage, hashes the files, stores backups on 3 devices, and even fires off preservation letters warning against altering evidence. That's not a man cornered. That's a man setting traps. He knows bold liars dig their own holes if you hand them a shovel. By Monday, whispers swirl through the HOA chat, vague posts about reckless drivers and safety concerns. The newsletter parrots the same crafted suspiciously fast on Karen's laptop. Michael pulls the metadata, slides it into his growing folder, and smiles. One quirky tidbit he recalls: in medieval Europe, people accused pigs of crimes like property damage, even putting them on trial. At least those pigs had better odds than he'd get from Karen's kangaroo court. She ramps up the campaign, trying to boot him off the beautification committee. He lets her. because hidden cameras keep catching more her SUV creeping by her lips, whispering, "If we can show it got worse," her crouching in the dark with her phone. Each act a thread in the rope tightening around her. Historians still argue whether overconfidence is the Achilles heel of tyrants or simply human nature, but Michael knows give Karen time and she'll turn her smear job into her own undoing. The special HOA meeting feels like a stage play, folding chairs, a podium, and Karen in a blazer pretending she's before Congress. She paints herself as the careful driver nearly struck by Michael's recklessness. Linda follows, voice trembling like a soap opera understudy, swearing she saw it all. The police liaison, dragged in for credibility, stays neutral. But Karen seizes the theatrics. "For the good of the community, I move Michael be removed." Neighbors shuffle uneasily. A few hands rise, others hover. Karen beams, convinced her climax is here. She cues Michael to speak, expecting surrender. Instead, he produces an HDMI cable. "With your permission," he says. The projector flares to life. Clip 1. His sedan, motionless. Her SUV creeping, then crunching into his bumper. Clip 2. Her whispering, "If we can show it got worse." Clip 3. Her crouching at night, snapping staged photos. The room goes still, save for the projector fan. Karen mutters about context and privacy, but her neighbor's eyes no longer avoid Michael. They avoid her. The liaison officer clears his throat, requesting copies for an active investigation. The tide turns with the subtle violence of a dam breaking. By week's end, her insurance denies her claim. Police loop and fraud detectives, and whispers spread faster than gossip at a bake sale. The morning cruisers pull up to Karen's house hedge. Trimmers pause midair. She's led away in cuffs while Linda freezes, realizing her loyalty has an expiration date. Michael doesn't film. He doesn't need to. The neighborhood records the downfall for him. Probation, fines, restitution, and banishment from HOA office follow. The board reforms. Letters stop. For the first time in months, Maple Oaks feels normal. Michael even frames the HOA's official apology above his workbench. Neighbors who once eyed him with suspicion now wave first. Funny how fast loyalty shifts once the gossip faucet runs dry. Still, he upgrades his camera's better night vision. Another unit hidden in the mailbox, and a little aluminum sign above his garage door engraved "Smile Karen." You're always on camera. Most laugh, assuming it's a joke. Those who know the story smile for another reason. Historians still argue whether communities remember scandals longer than triumphs. But in Maple Oaks, the cameras remember for everyone. And now the wind down. Picture this: the porch lights dim. The neighborhood quiets, the air cooling after the Texas sun. The tension that once coiled around driveways and committee meetings dissolves into something gentler. Michael's sedan gleams again, polished not from paranoia but from simple pride. Neighbors stroll past with dogs tugging leashes. Children's bikes clatter against curbs, and the hum of cicadas steadies into background music. The story fades, not in a jolt, but in long breaths, like the steady exhale of someone finally unburdened. If you close your eyes, you can almost hear it: calm voices, soft laughter, the low rustle of leaves in evening air. A reminder that storms, no matter how loud, always give way to stillness. And that stillness, when it finally arrives, feels like a whisper promising tomorrow will be lighter.